I have to admit, this one took us by surprise. It's a place with its own art, its own natural wonders, and its own unique inhabitants. A lost continent, and he found it right under our noses.
In the middle of one of the worst blizzards New York has ever seen, we're headed for Manhattan's Upper West Side, along the Hudson River, past the boat basin, to 95th Street and Riverside Drive. Come with us as we peer into a subterranean world that few people have ever seen.
Bernard! Yeah! It's John from ABC. How you doing, John? Where do I get in? 103rd Street gate.
His name is Bernard Issacs, 40 years old, and our guide to New York's underground.
Let me let you in here. How many people have a key to this gate? Only me. I'm the Lord of the Tunnel, what can I tell you?
The tunnels. Railroad companies dug these catacombs more than half a century ago. Many were later abandoned. When Amtrak decided to reactivate this tunnel, Bernard Issacs watched over the company's tools and equipment. In return, he was given a key to what Bernard calls an expansive kingdom, complete with skylights and a unique art gallery, the work of two former graffiti artists.
That's a picture of you.
It is. I guess it's a tribute to me.
You've been called the Lord of the Tunnels. How did you get that title?
7 years ago, two guys took it upon themselves to tax me for coming through the tunnel, and I said to them, "You're going to tax me? You know who I am? I'm the Lord of the Tunnel," just joking. And it became a little joke every time people saw me in different places. You see the Dick Tracy? It says drop the gun mold. Well, I guess it's probably as people refer to us as the mole people sometimes.
There are hundreds of subway, railroad, and sewer tunnels beneath New York. The darkness in this labyrinth both hides and protects an estimated 2,000 to 5,000 mole people. Bernard controls a shadowy world that stretches for 10 blocks.
How cold is it here now?
As low as 5 degrees. I guess we call this Tunnel Falls. It'll give you an idea as to how cold it gets down here.
This is where I dwell. These are the houses.
The houses are Amtrak's old workstations made of concrete. There's no electricity here, no running water, no heat.
My room is relatively warm. It's right at about 24 degrees.
He wouldn't let our cameras into his room. It was too messy. But he did allow me to take a look inside.
You have a bed in there, a table, furniture?
Yeah, the book's it's a home.
This Lord of the Tunnels is also the resident poet-philosopher. The artists have etched his quotes on his living room wall.
It says modern day society is guilty of intellectual terrorism.
That is a beautiful mural.
It's artist Goya. That's Napoleon soldiers shooting the Spanish rebels.
Does that say anything about life here?
I'm a rebel, I guess. In this environment, water and wood are the key necessities. We had a water line down here years ago, but it shut off, so we had to seek other sources like the bathrooms, the parks. I easily go through 5 gallons a day just to prepare food in the wash. I have to thaw the sponge out first, it's frozen.
How do you bathe now?
Some SRO hotels on 92nd Street.
Here comes a train. Which was that one?
That's on one of the local runs from Albany.
Do you envy the people in that train?
Oh, not at all. They value things that are not important to me. I've owned a car. I mean, I've had an enormous amount of love affairs in my life. I mean, I've spent an enormous amount of money, but I don't have the aggravation that comes with having all those things.
It might surprise you to learn that Bernard is a college graduate. Before his life in the tunnels, he says, he worked a number of jobs: fashion model, cinematographer, and assistant at CBS News. And for a while, he lived a fast life, dealing cocaine.
Were you hooked on crack?
Oh, I've never been hooked on anything but being free.
Bernard claims it wasn't drugs, but alienation and a broken heart which brought him to the tunnels. 8 years ago, he lost his job, his girlfriend, and his apartment.
So, Bernard, what do? You're starting out with nothing. Well, Zero is the greatest number. Everything begins and ends at zero. So you start from nothing. And I ended up on the bridge at 96th Street for 2 weeks.
But then he remembered seeing this tunnel years before.
What was your first night here like?
Intense. We were taught from childhood to fear the darkness. You know how your big brother or sister locks you in the closet and the boogeyman is going to get you. That plays on your mind.
He soon found peace in the darkness, and he started sharing his tunnel with others who were homeless. Before long, Bernard was lord in a community of 12 residents, including 3 couples.
My haven of harmony was turned into a hangout for headaches. And I said to them one day, I said, all my children, in their search for tomorrow, with help from the guiding light.
You've seen real-life dramas.
I'm telling you, Hollywood haven't seen the best actors, man.
Are there lots of tears shed down here?
Oh, there has been.
The last time he cried, he says, was just a few days after he was given this teapot by a tunnel dweller who was always high on drugs.
And a few days later, I forced him out of here. And he was living in an abandoned building on 95th Street. And one day he got his food stamps and check, and some guys came in and robbed him and strangled him to death. You know, I was really hurt because I had a guilt that if I hadn't driven this guy away, he would have been alive. And I always kept this teapot because of him.
Today, only 2 men live with Bernard, Tony Ramos and Bob Kowalski, a speed freak who's been missing for days.
Probably down in some little cheap hotel down the Bowery.
The other residents either left the tunnel on their own or were kicked out by Bernard.
I'm probably the most hated person in this tunnel.
Hated because of his dictatorial rule. Watch how he reacts when a visitor walks into the tunnel during our interview.
You gotta leave right now. Don't even question it, leave. Now. Bye. Bye!
The young man has been barred from the tunnel by Bernard ever since he took a hit of crack in front of transit police.
You've got rules down here.
That's right. Whatever one is about, be it smoking crack, drinking alcohol, whatever it is about, don't allow it to become an annoyance to anyone else.
A train enters the tunnel. It plunges into the darkness beneath the city where Bernard has created his kind of order. But down toward the southern end of his domain, life is more frightening, more violent. The kind of community where outsiders aren't welcome, except sometimes with knives and baseball bats.
I've had some physical confrontations with people that dwell in this area. But I truly believe that I'm probably in the safest place in New York right now. From what I hear on the radio, I mean, kids are being shot just going to the store.
Has your family tried to get you out of here?
Well, my family is far from being poor. If it was about me just borrowing some money to get a place to live, that could be done easily, but I don't see that being necessary.
A lot of people will call you a bum.
What you call it don't change what it is. I'm not on public assistance. I'm self-supporting.
How is it that you get money?
Can redemption. I sell and I buy cans.
What kind of life is that?
It's honest. It's very profitable.
But you're well educated. You could do something beyond collecting cans.
I would have to conform it, and I'm not willing to part with my peace of mind right now. That's the real truth of it all. And one that would listen to me talk would say, man, how can you find peace in this? Well, I'm one who deals in simplicity. I love to cook. I have more spices and condiments than a restaurant. I have copper, you can't see it, most of them are covered with copper, stainless steel cookware, all the silverware you would ever need. One man's garbage is truly another man's treasure.
How do you keep stuff clean?
Hot water sterilizes everything. Very particular about that.
What about rats?
Well, I've seen a pretty large rat. The cats to a number. I don't feed them. They're starving for 3 or 4 days, and they clean the house.
How do you get food?
Years ago, when I first came out, I was scrounging around here, and I looked at the city of treasures. I mean, the grocery stores at night would throw out unbelievable things. I think it's disgraceful considering the amount of soup kitchens they have in this city. Something should be donated to the cause.
What would you do if you were in charge of the homeless problem?
Put people to work to do for themselves. They have made it too easy for people at this level to cheat. It's nothing to get on public assistance, but this existence has really broken them down.
A lot of people watching this will have two thoughts. Either people shouldn't live like this, or if they choose to live like this, they must be crazy. Are you?
By no means. But until the people that would make that sort of judgment have the experience themselves, they will never know. See, because it is by experience only that one knows, and everything else is indeed hearsay.
And it's been a good experience?
A great experience.
Perhaps not for everyone, just for those at peace with the darkness and the isolation of a world where even the homeless can be lords of the kingdom.
Devoured a bowl or two of tongue stew, throw my feet up on the grill, have that final cup of tea or coffee, my thermoses are full, take in the room at night, and just enjoy the peace and solitude of the tunnel. I wouldn't trade it for all the diamonds in Denmark. I really wouldn't.
There's a new book called The Mole People by Jennifer Toth, which details the life of those who live in the tunnels under New York City. And if you're wondering about the artists who painted those amazing murals, Chris Pape is freelancing as a visual journalist, and Roger Smith continues to do murals around the city of New York.
In a moment, on the record.